Thanks everyone for coming back for another segment of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. My name's TJ, still flying solo. Mac isn't quite 100% yet, and hopefully in the near future he and I can get back to doing a duo for y'all. Before I get to the topic of this segment, I'd like to share some sad news with all y'all. Just the other week, we had a brother from Grayling, Michigan, die while serving in the United States Army. His name is Staff Sergeant Kelly Richards. He was assigned to the 3rd Armored Brigade Combat Team. He was a medical specialist, and he was competing for the Expert Field Medical Badge at Camp Casey in South Korea. Details of his death have yet to be released. It's currently under investigation. But I would just like to remind everyone that in the military, even training can be dangerous. So just wanted to let his family know that my thoughts were with him and our thoughts are with him, or with them. And so on to the topic of this segment. First, I'd like to thank the voters who saw no problem voting for Democrats and putting them into office in the House of Representatives. I'd like to thank those who were apathetic and thought, gee, now that Trump is president, we can let up, and this last midterm elections have consequences. The Democrats are running the House, and now we got this clown show going on. The clown show being the official inquiry into impeachment. They haven't officially voted yet for impeachment, but they've decided to officially begin an inquiry. Blah, 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 blah. I feel like a Tom Clancy novel's being written. The intrigue is something else. In a previous video, Mac and I, we would talk about what it might take for another civil war, and I gotta wonder if we're not on that path right now with this latest situation. I feel like we're in a cold civil war right now. You got the Democrats' Machiavellian effort to implement their socialist agenda on us. There will be compliance, no dissent. We will get with the program. So, at the center of their latest effort, it involves a telephone call which occurred between President Trump and the President of Ukraine. And this phone call occurred July 25th. And, the Democrats released a statement how they were doing an open impeachment inquiry. And so the very next day, President Trump releases the transcript of the phone call in question. I really encourage everyone to look it up, download it, save it, print it, and read it and understand it. In this transcript, it's 5 pages, and on page 3 it mentions CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is the cybersecurity agency the Democrats used to look into the supposed RNC breach, the hack into the RNC server. If you recall, Democrats reported that their server had been hacked. They wouldn't let, Debbie Wasserman Schultz would not let the FBI look at their server. They instead brought in CrowdStrike, and CrowdStrike determined that a Russian entity had hacked into their server. Now, keep in mind, FBI to this day can't confirm whether or not it was Russian because they weren't allowed to look at it. So now we're just getting on the word of CrowdStrike. Okay? And CrowdStrike has a history of being anti-Russian, And there is a theory that whenever the opportunity presents itself, they always like to point the finger to Russia. And in regards to the DNC server being hatched, they're pointing the finger to Russia. So that was on page 3 of the phone call transcript. On page 4, President Trump finally gets around to talking about Biden and his son Hunter. And President Trump asks Ukraine if they could look into this, but there is no quid pro quo. More of a I'm glad, it's more of looking into corruption. Zelensky, he, like our President Trump, is into draining his version of the Ukrainian swamp, and looking into this situation. It involves Ukraine's swamp also, and the Democrats are accusing President Trump of demanding a quid pro quo from Ukraine in regards to looking into Biden and his son and they're basically accusing President Trump of using it toward this next presidential election. The reason why one of the reasons why this got brought up is, and I want to say January 23, I think. Let me look here. January 23, 2018, Joe Biden was speaking before a meeting, Council of Foreign Relations. He had an audience there. And he was bragging about getting a particular Ukrainian prosecutor fired. And the way this goes is this particular prosecutor, when Obama was president, because Joe Biden was vice president at the time, this particular prosecutor was looking into Burisma, and Hunter Biden was on the board of this company. And as the prosecutor was looking into Burisma, they were also going to question Hunter. So Vice President Joe Biden goes over to Ukraine, and under threat of withholding a $1 billion loan guarantee, they were able to get this prosecutor fired, brought in a new prosecutor, and Joe Biden's son Hunter was never questioned. And so that's what's being referenced by President Trump on page 4 of the phone transcript. The whistleblower complaint. It's a 9-page document, redacted kind of heavily towards the end of it. It's full of legalese. It's not an easy read, but it does mention how the whistleblower themselves, and by the way, the whistleblower is believed to be a CIA operative. The whistleblower does not have first-hand knowledge, but they are relying on second and even third-hand knowledge of the content of the phone call. Of course, all this came out before President Trump decided to release the transcript of the phone call. But this whistleblower complaint was sent to the Senate and the House of Representatives August 12, 2019. And basically, the whistleblower says how someone told someone who told someone who told them, and they have concerns leading to the security of the United States, and there are counter accusations that this whistleblower has ties to the Democrat Party. And I'd really encourage everyone to download and read that. So this past week, Adam Schiff, Democrat, begins his inquiry, impeachment inquiry, and in the opening session, Devin Nunes, Republican, is compelled to make his remarks. And if you recall who Devin Nunes is, he is the Republican representative who, at the beginning of President Trump's presidential term, made some discoveries, and was so concerned with what he uncovered, he immediately went to the White House and informed President Trump, basically saying, hey, these guys got all sorts of stuff supposedly. They've been surveilling you, and this is what they got. And Democrats they basically got on Nunez, and the Never Trumpers got on Nunez, and so this past week at the opening session of the impeachment inquiry, Devin Nunes, in his comments, states the following: the complaint relied heavily on hearsay evidence of the whistleblower. Inspector General did not know the contents of the phone call at issue. Inspector General found that the whistleblower displayed arguable political bias against Trump, given that they had Democrat connections. Department of Justice investigated the complaint and determined no action was warranted, and the Ukrainian president denies being pressured by President Trump. Later in Devin Nunes' opening remarks, he makes accusations towards the Democrat Party. He brings up the fact that Joe Biden bragged about firing the Ukrainian president. He basically mentions 3 Democrat senators wrote a letter pressuring the Ukrainian general prosecutor to reopen investigations it reportedly froze on former Trump campaign officials. Devin Nunes mentions how another Democrat senator went to Ukraine to pressure them to not investigate Biden's son. And Devin Nunes mentions Nellie Orr, the wife of Bruce Orr, her employment by Fusion GPS, which the Democrats used in producing the Steele dossier, which everyone I'm sure has heard of by now. And Democrats on this very committee negotiated with people they thought were Ukrainians in order to obtain nude pictures of Trump. And if you listen to Sean Hannity and whatnot, Sean Hannity always likes to reference that phone call where Ukrainian comedians played themselves off as Russian spies, called up Adam Schiff, and told Adam Schiff, "Hey, we got some embarrassing pictures of then civilian Trump." And Adam Schiff was all too quick to jump at the opportunity, if you know, in his efforts to smear President Donald Trump. So that's what that was all about. This would be the latest example of the swamp coming after Trump. And remember, right from the very beginning, President Trump said he had his wires tapped, and everyone laughed and mocked at him. What we see here is Democrat hypocrisy. They've pretty much done the very things they've accused President Trump of. I've always made the comment, me personally, I've made the comment, Democrats are out to destroy me, and the Republicans are content to look the other way. These Republicans, the Never-Trumpers, Mitt Romney, John Kasich, Ben Sasse, and others. So we're kind of at a scorched earth policy here now, where both sides are digging in, and you know, it's going to get messy. You know, one of the things, you know, often said about President Trump is he has no problems winning ugly, and I do figure that this is going to have to be an ugly win. And I'm fine with President Trump winning ugly. That's why I voted for him. We needed someone who was willing to fight. And the Democrats, we already know, have no problems with fighting ugly. So that's it. Those are my thoughts. I would really encourage everyone to look up the phone transcript save it, print it out. Look up the whistleblower complaint, save it, print it out. Because when, you know, I look at, and I'll use Juan Williams. Juan Williams is the easy one to use as an example, but you know, when you're talking to the Juan Williamses out there, you've got to have it together, know what you're talking about, and just prepare yourselves for their vicious retorts. Okay, so we're in a situation. Thanks everyone. Just as I like to say, keep your powder dry. And I'll say at this time, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.